to century.
All right. So again, welcome everybody to the Quality Connection. This is our bi-monthly webinar that we have. So Christina, if you want to go ahead and advance the slide for us. So this webinar happens every other month, and it's really just a time for folks to get on to hear about whatever topic we're talking about for that month, to also just ask some questions about Grace Start to Quality, kind of ground yourself in the process and where you're at. And so that's what we're here to do today. A couple of things we want to do, just a little bit of tech etiquette for everybody. Since it is such a small group, if you're able to have your camera on, that's always fantastic. We love to see your face. This is super informal. Feel free to unmute, to type things in the chat, to raise your hand, and we're happy to let you jump in with questions. And we just really want this to be an engaging time. So let us know. Go ahead and jump in when you have something. And I was supposed to do welcomes as well. So my name is Nicole. I probably should have started with that. I am a validator with Great Start to Quality, and am the person who is hosting these webinars every other month. So if you join again in a couple months, you'll see my face again. And we're just here to talk about all things Great Start to Quality. I've been with Great Start to Quality for a lot of years now. So if you've been around for a while or participate in the process, you may have spoken to me for validation, or I may have come out in person as well. And then I have a few colleagues that are joining me. My amazing colleague Christina is kind of doing our behind the scenes slides, going to help with some chat. And then I also have Stacy and Amber with me as well, and they're going to share some information. So I'll let them both do a real quick introduction. If you just kind of want to say your name, ladies, and a little bit about you, and then we'll kind of carry on.
Yeah, I can go first. My name is Amber Vanderzalm. I am one of the assessment team leads. I am out in the field doing on-site observations as well as helping to supervise the assessors. So welcome everyone. I'm glad to be here tonight with you.
And I am Stacy Treleski. I am the other assessment team lead, also out in the field doing observations weekly and helping to support the assessment team. I'm really excited to be here and share some information with you all and see how the evening goes.
Thanks, Stacy and Amber. We're glad that you're here and hoping with the storms that everybody's power makes it and we're good to go, but we will be flexible. Perfectly fine. Um, so our agenda tonight, we just did our welcome. We're going to do a little welcome, let all of you introduce yourselves as well. We're going to go over some things that are new with Great Start to Quality. We have just a couple updates, things we want to share with you. And then we're really going to focus on our topic for the month, which is intentional teaching practices, and specifically kind of diving in deeper of how does Great Start to Quality support childcare providers with in their intentional teaching practices. So what are the ways that that is kind of connected? And then we'll have some time for Q&A intentionally at the end as well. So feel free to jump in if you have questions throughout, but know that that time will be held at the end as well. So the next thing we're going to do is just a little welcome and inclusion. We got to introduce ourselves. You got to hear a little bit about us. Christina, if you want to go to the next slide, that would be great. Um, and so I'm going to ask if you, those of you that are joining us, if you could just put your name in the chat, say what your role is or the organization that you work for, and then describe how you feel about intentional teaching practices in 3 words or less. That can be a little tricky. It may be, yes, I love my intentional teaching. This is great. It may be words like overwhelming or unsure. Whatever you're feeling, go ahead and put that in the chat in 3 words or less. I think if I was going to pick 3 words, I would say sometimes it feels like not enough time. Those might be my 3 words. When we're teaching children, we're very busy. Thanks, Sarah. I mean, a group childcare home, having a childcare business and a family and all the things is a lot. So we're glad that you do that work and that you were able to join us. I like those 3 words that you chose. I'm not sure, is it Lana or Lana? I'm not sure which way we'll pronounce it, so I apologize.
Lana Banana.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Lana. I like those words, valid, chaotic, and trying. Yes, putting that effort in is definitely important. Great. We appreciate that. And then Sarah, I like those. They're so darn hard. Yes, very true. It is very hard. And then we have some of our Resource Center folks that are joining us as well. Valuable, impactful, and challenging. Thanks, Dawn. We appreciate that. All right. So we are going to continue to move on. Oh, I see a couple others putting their stuff in there as well. Uh, Whitney, we're glad that you joined us and director of 2 locations. So you have a lot going on. We appreciate you joining and that it's all new to you. So we will try our best to help explain all the things. And then I see we got some other folks on as well. So, okay. So the next thing we're going to do, Christina, if we can go to the next slide, is to talk about the outcomes that we have for this webinar. So anytime that we're doing these webinars, we really want to make sure that we're helping folks have a better understanding of Great Search quality, its purpose, how it supports you as a provider, and also those that you're serving. We want to make sure you know the resources that are available. We want to give you a full understanding of the quality improvement process and who's available to help you. And we want you to know where you can go to get questions answered. And we also want to hear your feedback. So at the end, we're going to gather a little feedback about the process as well. So to kind of ground us in this, the next thing we're going to do is just talk a little bit about the process as a whole. So I saw in the chat some folks were saying that they were new or there were career changes. So we just wanted to share this image. This is the Great Start to Quality process. So it gives each of the quality levels and that programs move through as they're participating in the quality improvement process. So at that bottom is that maintaining health and safety. That's where all licensed childcare programs start. We're at that maintaining health and safety quality level. And then as you move through the process, you move through those different quality levels. So the first one is reflecting on quality, which is truly reflecting. We want programs to be thinking about their practices, reflecting on what they're doing, what changes might they want to make, what things might they need to work on. Then you move into enhancing quality, which is really that improvement, enhancing, making those changes, trying to make adjustments and get things better. Then the next quality level is enhancing quality validated. So once programs have worked on all of those different things, they made some changes and they say, you know what, I'm ready to have somebody kind of tell me where I'm at in the process. That's when they move into the validation. They have the validator confirm that information in their self-reflection, review those quality indicators. And then once that process is done, they can move into that on-site observation. And then if a program meets those threshold scores in the on-site observation, then they move into demonstrating quality level. And then if programs at any point want to start the process again, you've made changes, you made improvements, you come back through that process. It's just a cycle and you continue to go through it. If you're content where you're at and which quality level you're at, you can stay at that for up to 3 years. So that's a quick overview for anybody that might not be familiar. It's a lot of information. So I do want to pause. Were there any questions about the process as a whole? And if you have super specific questions about where your program is at, if it's going to take a lot of time, then I can certainly follow up with you after the webinar. So I will put in the chat as well, contact information. So feel free to ask your question now, but you can reach out to Great Start to Quality. We have a general inbox that myself and Christina and others on our team monitor. And then I'll also put my direct email and my phone number in the chat as well. So feel free to reach out anytime. But for right now, were there any questions? All right. So we will go ahead and move on then. And we're going to just give you a couple of quick updates about some things that are new with Great Search Quality. So the first one is just some reminders about Class Second Edition. I'm not the expert on this, so I'm going to share the information that was shared, but I do have some experts, Stacy and Amber, who support the on-site observation in the class tool. So if there are questions, feel free to ask them. They should be able to help us. But really what we wanted to share is a couple things about Class Second Edition. First is, what is it? It's the same tool as before. It just is enhanced to make the process easier and better and more supportive, and to honor some individual and cultural variations and ways of being for folks. So there are just some various slight adaptations, but fundamentally the tool is the same. There are no changes. The other important thing to know about it is when. So Great Start to Quality is going to transition to using pre-K3 class, second edition, hopefully I got that right, by August 1st of this year. So it's coming up pretty quick. We're in June. August 1st is when that transition is going to happen. And then how do you learn more about this? If you're still unsure, like what this tool is, all of those types of things, you can go to our website. So on our Great Start to Quality website, we have a whole page that's dedicated about class. So I'll go ahead and put that in the chat as well. So if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Um, there also is some different training you can take. So there is a self-paced training in my registry that you can sign up for. It's called the self-paced class, which is the classroom assessment scoring system for on-site observation overview. And so you're welcome to sign up for that. And then also there is an on-demand class environment training that is in the MIAEYC Knowledge Center. So if you wanted some more information about that, that is also available. So I'll pause with those updates. Any questions about class second edition or where to get more information? All right, so we'll go ahead and move to our next update. And this is a real quick update as well. This one is about licensing rules. So as I'm sure everybody is aware, licensing recently have the newly adopted child care home licensing rules, and those mirror the center rules that they put into place in 2025. And so the good news is those rules don't really impact anything for Great Start to Quality. So there's no impacts to the self-reflection, to validation, on-site observation. So we really just wanted to highlight that the rules are there and really that meeting these licensing requirements, even though they're different, they actually support the information that we need for Great Start to Quality. There's certain things that need to be verified for Great Start to Quality. So by meeting these licensing requirements, it just helps support that process when you're participating, but it doesn't impact it in any way. And so licensing is going to be offering more trainings on these. And we also know that for any folks, I'm not sure if anybody on this call is part of a family child care network, but if you are, they're also going to be offering some trainings as well. So just wanted to highlight those rules are live, but they don't impact Great Start to Quality. So any questions about those pieces? All right. So now we're going to get into the meat of our topic, intentional teaching practices and how Great Start to Quality can support these things. So the first thing that we want to do is just kind of ground everybody in intentional teaching practices and why are they important. So we have some reminders here from NAEYC, the National Association for the Education of Young Children. I'm going to put a link to the article where this information came from. So if you want to do a little more reading, you are more than welcome to. But basically what they say is that the importance of intentional teaching practices is so that teachers can be researchers and observe the children to be able to extend their learning by planning new activities, new environments, to be able to intervene to help the children make those connections, to expand play, to ask questions, to create meaningful opportunities for children. So it's really about being intentional to put all the pieces together for the kiddos as they're playing to help them learn and grow and develop, which I think we can all agree with. So the next thing that you're probably wondering is like, okay, great, I'm on board with that. I understand why intentional teaching is important, but how does Great Start to Quality help with that? So there's kind of two different things in Great Start to Quality that are connected to intentional teaching. So the first is the quality indicators. So the quality indicators are the items that are in the self-reflection. So if you've already participated in the process, you're probably familiar with that language. The self-reflection is what programs fill out. They identify each of those indicators in there to say whether they're currently meeting or not meeting, or if it's something that they're working on. So we have indicators in that self-reflection that are specifically designed to help programs improve their intentional teaching practices and to be thinking about those things. So that's one way. And the second way is through the on-site observation process. So that's a process where our amazing assessors, including Amber, Stacy, and the rest of their teams, come out in person and they observe programs using either the class or the ERS tool, and then they share feedback about that. And those observations are all about those adult-child interactions. So looking at what are those teaching practices that are being used with the kiddos and giving feedback so that programs can keep doing those great things and then find things they want to improve on. So those are the two kind of big buckets where Great Start to Quality supports intentional teaching practices. All right. So the next thing that we're going to do is just get a little bit of information from all of you because I'm sure you're sick of me talking. So we're going to take a little pause and I'm going to ask a little poll question of everybody. So what I'm going to ask is if you can answer that poll question. And then after you've answered that, either raise your hand if you're comfortable unmuting and sharing, or you can type in the chat the answer to the question in the box on the screen. So first we'll do the poll, then you can answer that question. So give me 1 minute here to launch that poll. There we go. Okay, so the poll question is, when it comes to intentional teaching, in what area do you think your program excels the most? So the 4 choices are those choices that were listed from in that information from NAEYC. So do you think you excel the most at extending the learning in the moment by planning new play environments? Do you think you excel the most at quietly intervening to help children connect context to everyday concepts and academic content? Do you think you excel the most at strategically expanding play and asking questions, or creating meaningful learning opportunities for children? So go ahead and read those and pick your best option. Give folks just another minute. I know there's a lot to read and determine which one you want. Looks like there's a few folks that haven't answered yet, so we'll give you just a minute. All right, so it looks like the majority of folks that are on the call today said that they feel like they excel the most at extending their learning in both in the moment and by planning new play environments. And then we had a couple of other folks who said they're good at that quietly intervening and supporting the kiddos, and then also creating meaningful learning opportunities. So thanks for that. We love all the ways that folks are excelling. So the next question then is, what strategies does your program use that led to your success in that area? So what are the things that you're doing that actually support your intentional teaching practices in that way? Feel free to unmute if you're comfortable sharing, or go ahead and type in the chat like what those strategies are that you might use. See some examples in here about narrating children's play, some things folks are putting in the chat. What other strategies might folks be using? And I know it takes a minute to tap, so that's fine. Or to type it up, sorry. I see some other things in here, introducing new materials that align to children's interests. Those are great strategies. Some other folks saying, I still have a lot to learn in these areas, which is great. And reading books while the kiddos are eating helps keep them seated and listening, which is great. I love that strategy. And then training with the new staff to help them be intentional, which is great. Thinking outside the box, planning activities to meet the children where they are. These are all amazing strategies. Developing lessons that extend throughout the whole space, so the different areas and different times of day. So even like at the table, at snack time, reading, math, art. We love all those strategies. Thank you all for those. All right. So now we're going to shift a little bit and talk specifically. We talked about those 2 kind of sections of Great Start to Quality that support intentional teaching practices. And the first was the quality indicators. So we're going to go ahead and dive into some of the examples. I'm not going to share all 40 of the quality indicators. I have 4 that I'm going to give you some examples and a little bit more information about. So this first one here is FCP4. And this indicator says that the program shows how children, school agers, families, and staff have opportunities to provide verbal or written feedback about the program. So maybe thinking, okay, great, what does feedback have to do with intentional teaching? Well, if we specifically think about the children and the school agers feedback, when teachers take that feedback and then use it that can inform their intentional teaching. So when we think back to that slide from Nacy, that poll question that you answered, what are the different strategies or things that you're doing? All of those things can be informed and improved by feedback. So it includes listening to what the children are saying, what they're interested in, what do they want to learn more about, and then using that then to plan those lessons to adjust the program environment. So as folks were putting things in the chat, like about having materials in all the different sensor or all the different areas and learning centers, all of those things can be based on the children's feedback, which can support your intentional teaching. So I'm wondering if folks could maybe type in the chat some ways that you might consider collecting feedback from children that would help you be more intentional. So if you're already doing feedback, what are some of the strategies that you're using that works to collect that feedback? If you're not, what things might you consider implementing to be able to gather more feedback? And I'm pausing because I know that folks are typing, so we'll give folks a second. I know it's my natural inclination, and I'm sure others, to want to fill the space. So I'm trying really hard to embrace the silence as folks are processing. Oh, asking the children about the foods that you're making, absolutely. That can certainly be helpful in making adjustments. Another strategy, a thumbs up, thumbs down, absolutely. And that can be, are you interested in this topic? Thumbs up, thumb down. It can be, hey, we just did this activity. Thumbs up, thumbs down. Did you like it? Do you want to do that again? Those are great strategies. Talking about their favorite topics. So asking those kind of questions, having those conversations. Absolutely. Allowing the children to choose the materials they're interested in and then adding things. Utilizing apps or tools like Brightwheel, other tools to share communications with parents. That's great. All of those are wonderful strategies that we like to see. So feedback is super important. So when we're thinking about this indicator for great start to quality, if you want to meet that indicator, then what we would need to see uploaded for evidence would be examples of those things that you just typed in the box. So we would want to see lesson plans or anecdotal notes, a description that explains how you're doing those things would then support the evidence that you would need to meet the intent of this indicator. All right. So the next question, or the next indicator that we have is CIL5. This one is asking if every classroom and or program or group of children have a daily routine that is predictable, flexible, and supportive of the children. And we specifically want to see each of these 4 different boxes, those 4 different parts of the day on the daily routine for this indicator. So if you're in a center and you have multiple classrooms, each classroom would need to have a daily routine that has each of these 4 parts of the day to meet the intent of the indicator. If you're a family childcare program, we just need to see one schedule that has those different parts of the day. And thinking about these parts of the day can really help you create those meaningful learning experiences for the children. So some of the things that folks were already putting in the chat and we're talking about are, for example, thinking about reading stories at meal times. So thinking on this part about care routines, that's a part of the day that we want to see for Grace Arts Quality, but that still is a learning time of the day. So it's really about thinking about the intentional practices and then also thinking about the children in your care. Do you have a really active group of kiddos that are very physical and want and need to move? If you do, then you probably don't want to schedule your small group and your large group back to back because that's going to be hard for the children to sit and engage in those activities. So we might want to break those up, put outside time or gross motor in between them. So it's really about being intentional of not just, yep, I have all these parts of the day and every year I follow this exact same routine. It's really being intentional about what are the kiddos doing, what are their needs, and then adjusting the schedule to meet those needs so that they can learn the best. So um, I'm just going to pause for a second. And if you want to just jot down some notes, you can put it in the chat if you want, but you certainly don't have to. But if there's something you want to work on, maybe you're thinking about your schedule, how you can make an adjustment or set a goal. So I'm just going to pause for a second, let folks go ahead and jot down a little note and specifically about your daily routine and what you might want to adjust to be more intentional with your teaching and your parts of the day. All right, so the next indicator that we want to talk about is CIL6. And this one is all about curriculums. This one's a little bit more obvious about how that's connected to our intentional teaching practices. So CIL6 says program shows that it implements a curriculum from the list. The curriculum tool must be appropriate to the license type and ages of children served. So Great Start to Quality has a list of approved curricula, and on that list are tools that can help teachers to support their intentional teaching practices. So just so everybody is aware, the list is approved by MyLeap, and they regularly update that list. There actually was just recently a process where curricula were allowed to be submitted and reviewed. And so hopefully in the coming months, we'll have an updated list, hopefully with some new curricula options for programs. But really the intention of this indicator is just to give staff childcare programs a framework that they can plan those activities, lessons, experiences, be able to set up their environment. And being guided by a framework gives you a set routine so you can then make adjustments to meet the needs of the children. So being intentional. When you don't have a set routine or a curriculum or a framework to follow, then we can kind of just be doing anything, or we can forget about those intentional things. So when you have the framework, it's easier then to work in that and be more intentional. So I'm going to ask everybody, could you share in the chat what curriculum are you using? And if you're not using a curriculum, why? Is it too expensive? Are you not aware of the curriculum? Are there options? Are you just not sure what the options are? So just kind of like to get a sense of who's using what curricula. And I see some conversations going on in chat. So thanks to my colleagues for responding to those things. Those are great. And again, if you can just type in the chat what curriculum you're using, and if you're not using one, why. Okay, so curriculum is expensive, absolutely, especially for multiple ages. We hear that a lot. So you create your own from various different sources. Absolutely, we hear that, which is what we're hoping the list gets updated so there's more affordable options for folks. Some folks are using some kind of supplemental things, so Reggie Rainbow. And so that's all about food and nutrition, which is a great supplemental curriculum. Absolutely. So we definitely know that cost and other factors are can inhibit programs from using a curricula. So what I do want to say is for Great Start to Quality, there are no points on any of the indicators. So just because we recommend using a curriculum and we have these lists, it doesn't mean that you have to be using one. So there is an option when you're filling out the self-reflection to say not aligned to program philosophy. And so if there's some reason that you can't, or you can say not currently meeting, and it doesn't count against you, it doesn't hinder you from being able to move forward with the process. So it's okay if you're not using a curriculum. But your resource center is also available. We have some resource center folks on tonight, and they have different curriculum that you can look at, that you can use. They can teach you how to use it. They can share different options, let you know what other providers in your area are using. So definitely rely on your resource centers to get more information too if you're interested in using the curriculum. Okay. All right, and the final indicator that we're going to share about tonight is AM3. So this indicator asks that providers and staff show how they complete an annual self-evaluation to create individual performance goals. So we're thinking, okay, great. What does my staff creating a performance goal or me creating a performance goal have to do with individual, or excuse me, intentional teaching practices? Well, if we want to be intentional as individuals, it also requires some self-reflection. So yes, we're getting the feedback from the children. We're maybe using curriculum or activities that we're researching as a guide, but we also want to think about our own practices and what ways that we could make changes. So I do have a couple questions that I'm going to put in the chat here. And these are things that you can consider and ask yourself as you're thinking about it, to self-reflect of how you can improve your program practices. So things like, do I provide a variety of materials to support learning and creativity? Are my daily routines balanced between structure and flexibility? Am I supporting children's developmental needs and interests? Do I offer activities that promote social, emotional, physical, and cognitive growth? And so on. So when we ask ourselves those questions, then we can develop a goal around those things if we're not. So it could be a goal. For example, the first question was about providing a variety of materials that support learning and creativity. If you feel like that's an area that you can grow in, then the goal can be around, well, here's the materials that I would like to start including in my program. And I can set a goal about when and how I can go about purchasing those materials, those types of things. So I'm hoping that folks can use the little reaction feature, because I've had you do a lot of typing in the chat. So there is a little reaction feature in Zoom. And if you could just give me a thumbs up, or if you can't get the reactions to work, you're welcome, and your camera's on, feel free to actually give me a thumbs up. If you currently do a self-evaluation with yourself or with your staff, if you do an evaluation and goal creation process. I see a couple thumbs up coming through. Great. That's what we want to see. We want to see folks working on that that individual self-reflection to make improvements. I know evaluations are something that we do at Grace Arts Quality and the Early Childhood Investment Corporation. It's all about constant improvement. And if you're not currently doing that, if you didn't give me a thumbs up, could you give me a thumbs up if you would like to start doing this in the future? And I encourage folks to be able to do that going forward. All right. So you're probably sick of me talking, so I'm going to now shift gears and pass it off to Amber and Stacy on our on-site observation team, and they're going to talk about how on-site observation supports intentional teaching for Grace Arts Quality.
Thank you, Nicole. So this first slide for Amber and I, intentional teaching practices and on-site observation, why it matters. You might be aware that Great Start to Quality uses multiple observation tools. We're using CLASS, the environmental rating scales, and the SEL-PQA. Each tool focuses on teaching practices through a slightly different lens. However, regardless of the lens, the outcome is still the same: how to provide developmentally appropriate best practices that enhance children's learning. Different tools may use different terms, but they ultimately value similar practices. It's important to remember that quality matters regardless of the tool, and that responsive interactions matter even when no one is observing. The goal should always be how to build stronger practice, not how to perform for a tool. So why do teaching interactions matter? Interactions are the foundation of learning. Children learn through responsive back and forth exchanges. High-quality interactions support language, thinking, self-regulation, and relationships. Interactions shape children's daily experiences more than materials alone. So I'm going to pass it over to Amber, who's going to take a deeper dive into these intentional teaching practices. We will discuss the importance of intentionality, how to incorporate these practices, and share some examples for what they could look like through daily routines.
All right, thanks, Stacy. So like Stacy said, GSQ does use several tools, and like she also said, they can look a little different, but they focus on similar things like language, vocabulary, feedback, conversation, all around language building. These are all really important parts of intentional teaching as well as best practice. So we have a couple of little video clips that we want to share. So this first one is from a TED Talk by Molly Wright. She's 7 years old. Amazing. It's just a short clip of it, but if you are interested, it's called How Every Child Can Thrive by 5. So Nicole, if you can hit, or Christina, if you can hit play on the one on the left, please.
What if I was to tell you that a game of peekaboo could change the world? Thanks to scientists, we now know just how important the first 5 years are for our health and development, especially our brains. Our healthy development depends on these top 5 things. 1, connecting. 2, talking. 3, playing. 4, a healthy home. 5, community. All of this helps our brains and us reach our full potential. So what's something you can do that can really make a difference? Scientists call it serve and return. That's just a grown-up way of saying each time you talk to us, play with us, make us laugh, it not only builds and strengthens our relationships and mental health, it actually teaches us some of the most important life skills. Imagine the difference we could make if everyone everywhere did this.
All right. Thank you, Molly. She is incredible. She's 7, like I said. In one clip, in a later part of her TED Talk, she talks about how important interactions are and language. And she says, and this is coming from a 7-year-old who's talking about brain science. So it matters. So being thoughtful and intentional when you're talking to the children really does impact their lives. These everyday interactions help to improve classroom quality by creating stronger engagement and richer interactions. It builds children's vocabulary, sentence structure, and conversational skills. It can support social emotional growth by helping children feel seen, valued, and connected. It can encourage self-regulation when adults name feelings, explain routines, and guide behavior. So, what are some strategies that you can use to be really intentional about helping kids build their language skills? You can have those back and forth conversations, serve and return, repeat children's words, copy their sounds if they're infants and nonverbal, pause and give them time to respond, and keep the conversation going by adding comments or asking follow-up questions. For example, if you're playing with a toddler and they're holding a ball and they say ba, you might want to say, "Oh, I see you have a red ball. Can you throw it to me?" Pause, and then you can continue adding more to that conversation. Can you throw it fast? Oh, you threw it. There's lots of ways that you can take that conversation, even though that toddler might be nonverbal. You can also introduce new vocabulary in simple, natural ways. Connect new words to things children already know and use what is around you. Things like your displays or your materials, even your environment. For example, if it's raining like it is right now, you can introduce new words like sprinkle, downpour, or precipitation just by looking out the window together. Another strategy is to narrate actions, not just yours or not just the children's, but yours as well. It helps children connect words to action. So if a preschooler is stacking blocks, you could say, "You're building a tower. You're putting the blocks on top of each other to make it really tall." During routines like diaper changes, you might narrate what you're doing. "I'm taking off your diaper so I can put on a clean one. Now I'm snapping your onesie and putting your pants back on." So not only does that connect words to actions, but for those babies and toddlers, it's letting them know what you're doing and what might happen next. Finally, you can give specific individualized feedback. It's really easy to fall into that good job trap, but really detailed feedback is much more helpful for the kids. For example, you might say, "You kept trying until your tower stood up." This type of feedback helps children understand what they did well, builds confidence, and encourages them to keep learning. So we do have a short little clip here on the right of a serve and return conversation in action with this adorable little toddler and his dad. So if you can hit play on that second one, please.
That's what I said. He was like, you know what I'm saying? And I was like, what in the world? But don't do it here. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Yeah. Really? I thought the same thing. We think a lot alike, huh? Come on. That's crazy. Right.
So as you can see in that really short clip, how cute is that little baby, first of all. But even though that little guy was nonverbal, they had a full conversation and there was a lot of pausing and waiting for his son to reply. It's a really great example of what serve and return looks like, particularly with a nonverbal kiddo. All right, if we can go to the next slide.
What if I was to tell
Whoa, sorry.
that again?
Both of my clips decided to go at the same time. Sorry about that. Okay, So then moving on to intentional concept development through play. Another way to really support your intentional teaching is by helping children build ideas through play. Play is how children learn best. When you join their play, build on their ideas, and extend what they're doing, you can help them grow in their thinking, problem solving, and social skills. During play, children practice predicting, comparing, explaining, and solving problems. They also learn how to work with others, manage their emotions, and show empathy. Play gives children a chance to make choices, take risks, and build confidence. You might wonder how something as simple as playing can do all of that, but it really can. So here are some simple strategies that you can use to support children during their play. This was actually mentioned in the chat earlier as a strategy people use, and it's following children's lead. Start with what interests them. This really does help keep children engaged and excited to learn. For example, if children are looking out the window at a butterfly, they may not want to switch to another activity right that moment. Maybe you were thinking about getting out the blocks. So how can you connect blocks with butterflies? Doesn't seem like they'd fit, but maybe you could say, what type of house do you think a butterfly would need? Now the kids are thinking about butterfly houses. Maybe you can take out the blocks at that point and say, would you like to try and build a house for a butterfly? Now the kids are thinking about what butterflies need to stay safe, what their homes might look like. And you can keep that learning going by reading books about butterflies or looking for them outside with magnifying glasses or binoculars. Following their lead is really going to extend their learning about particular subjects because they're excited and interested. You can offer support based on their level. So giving them just enough help so that they can succeed on their own. If a child is having trouble putting on shoes, instead of doing it for them, you can show them how to hold the back and pull on the tongue of the shoe. Maybe you offer them a tool, like a shoehorn, or something sturdy for them to push against to get their foot in the shoe. These small supports help children feel independent. And it's being very intentional about making sure that they can have that success. If something is too easy for a kiddo, you can try to make it a little more challenging. For example, if a child is building a tower and he's just stacking them up, you might want to suggest making his base a little bit wider so that it can grow taller. And then always stay close by to help continue to support them as they try those harder tasks. Extend their thinking. Encouraging children to think more deeply by asking questions and guiding their ideas. If you invite them to make predictions, things like, what do you think will happen if you add more sand? Have them experiment. Let's try it and see what works. Brainstorm. What are some different ways we could build this? Ask those open-ended questions so that you really get them talking. How did you figure that out? Or why are you doing it that way? You can also ask children, or you can also share new information with children during their play. If a child is pretending to take care of a baby doll or take their baby to the doctor, you might say, did you know doctors use a tool called a stethoscope to listen to a baby's heart and make sure it is strong? An easy way to just extend that play and give them a little bit of additional information. These simple strategies help deepen understanding while keeping play fun and engaging. Now, where does great start to quality come in to play with all of that? These are the things that the tool is looking for, both tools are looking for in best practice to really help with those teaching strategies. So let's see what it looks like in practice with kiddos playing pretend.
When you travel on your own, you can see a place, but gaining true insight takes something more.
What do we have here?
I can't see you.
The reason you didn't see me because I was hiding in the top of that tree back there in my unit. You're driving a bit reckless back there. I'm gonna have to issue you a citation. I'm gonna need your first, last, first. Also, ma'am, there is no phone usage while operating a motor vehicle. Let me get on down here at eye level. I want to see your eyes. You got your ID? Ma'am, that is a picture of you at Chuck E. Cheese. First off, your little purse here does not count as a seatbelt. Ma'am, pay attention. Window tint on the windshield is prohibited. You assault an officer, that'll be another charge. Get out. But let me go back to my unit. I decided, alright? Yeah, I'm out here on 49. Got a pink Jeep. Plate is a road quick. Got a runner. We got her. Unapprehended. I'm gonna put her in my unit now. That way. It didn't have to end like this. It was just, I wasn't even gonna write you a ticket. You were just gonna get a warning. Now you gotta go down to the station. Look up. We're en route to the precinct. Route 1.
All right. Thank you. We can advance to the next slide, and I'm going to pass it back to Stacy.
All right. I hope you all enjoyed the videos that we've shared, Amber and I, as we were thinking about how we wanted to show up for you all. We really were thinking about all of the things that we see and we don't see when we're doing observations and things that are really important. One of the most important things that can affect everything, regardless of tool, when you're looking at best practices, is really just talking to the children, increasing those interactions and giving them words even when they don't have them. All of the things that we've shared to you are important practices to use in your environment. But it's not just about circle time or free choice time. It's about all parts of the day. So what you're seeing on the screen here is what it might look in practice across the day. Those parts of the day, those routines, those transitions where sometimes it's easy to get wrapped up in what needs to be accomplished and maybe we don't recognize an opportunity for learning. So as you look at these examples, they are at all different parts of the day. It's really about making these connections, building the relationships, and talking with children. It's not only engaging in their play, but becoming an active participant like our police officer did. Asking questions that deepen learning, such as, ooh, you're working so hard to build that tower. I wonder why you decided to build it that way. Amber talked a little bit about scaffolding. When it comes to building towers, she used that same example. And maybe helping a child to build a stronger base so their tower is not falling over as easily. It's also engaging children in a fun activity as they transition outside. So it's not just walking in a line. Maybe it's walking like a dinosaur or tiptoeing, which is not only engaging the children and keeping them doing the task that you need them to do, but it's also working on some gross motor activities too. And then when it comes to meals, I think that mealtime can be really stressful for providers and teachers, but it doesn't always have to be. It was always one of my favorite parts of the day as a teacher, because so much can happen in that time. Those are the times where the children are sitting down, it's calmed down a little bit, and you have the opportunity to sit down and just talk with the children. Have conversations with them like you might if you were out to lunch with a friend. And I know that you're always multitasking, doing a multitude of things, serving their food, handling bathroom breaks, dealing with maybe undesired behaviors, getting ready for rest. But what could happen if you just sat down and had a conversation with the children? These are the types of interactions that not only deepen relationships, but help children make real-world connections, integrate learning, and practice language skills. Maybe you have the opportunity to serve family-style meals, giving children chances to practice being independent, or help set tables practicing their math skills. Perhaps they're responsible for cleaning up their areas or setting up their own rest space. Each of these is a valuable experience for children where they have the opportunity to learn a new skill or practice a more difficult task. Another one is outdoor time. It doesn't always have to be recess. Think about what strategies you can use that could encourage children to make predictions or practice problem solving. And with infants and toddlers, it's all about the language, giving them the words they may not have and the opportunity to respond to you. It's that serve and return that Amber talked about. And like she said, when it comes to feedback, how specific can you be? Going past that good job or way to go. Something like you cleaned up the dramatic play area all by yourself. You should be so proud of yourself. You can do hard things. As you look at each of these bullets, notice the similarities. Language is a main ingredient in improving intentional teaching practices. Words are used to enhance thinking, build relationships, and make connections. Nicole, I think we're passing it back to you.
Thanks so much, Stacy and Amber. Such helpful information and loved those videos. Couldn't have a lot. I've seen them before and really enjoyed them. So thank you for that. All right, so we have our last few minutes. We're just going to wrap up with some things. We shared a whole lot of information, did a lot of talking, and you might be wondering, okay, great, that all sounds good, but where can I learn more? Where can I get resources? How can I actually help implement these things? So Great Start to Quality has multiple things. I talked about all those quality indicators, gave some examples. We have a really extensive guidance document that goes into great detail. It has reflective questions, examples, a glossary, so you can check out that. Our resource centers and our staff at them are amazing, wonderful, supportive coaches. And so they're available to give you one-on-one individual program-specific support. They can share resources, they provide training. So definitely reach out to your resource center if you are not connected with them. If you're not sure who your coach is, I'm going to put some information in the chat about getting those resources. And then also our Great Start to Quality website. We have a page just simply for resources, but then there are also pages dedicated to the process. There's information about these observation tools that Stacy and Amber talked about where you can learn more, all sorts of resources on our website. So I'm going to put that information in the chat. If you haven't checked it out, we strongly encourage it. The next slide that we're going to do, and we're running a little low on time, so I don't want to take too much, but this slide is just to dig a little deeper. So I don't know that we have time to take 3 minutes, so I'm just going to ask you to kind of reflect real briefly, and then as you get off this webinar tonight, take these thoughts with you, be reflecting tonight and into the day tomorrow about what are some things that you want to do. Are there some teaching practices that you want to adjust or implement with yourself, or if you're a director, with your staff? What are some things that you could do, encourage? What are some goals you might want to set? How might you plan to make these adjustments? So is it by setting an intentional goal? If you're thinking about your staff and maybe it's about having a staff meeting to talk about some of this information, going to our website to get those resources that you could share with them. And then also think about what resources you might want to use. So I'm going to ask everybody to do that little self-reflection as you're ending this webinar tonight and into the coming days. All right. We want to give time for questions. So we just want to pause. Were there any questions that you didn't ask throughout, either about intentional teaching practices or just about Great Start to Quality in general that we can answer for anybody to provide support? We're here. And if you don't have the questions tonight or now, know that you can reach out to us anytime. I'm wondering how far out evaluations are right now. So Sarah, I'm guessing your question is related to that on-site observation and the assessor coming out to visit your program, correct? Yep. So I'll let Amber or Stacy address that piece since they're on that team.
I have not checked the latest stats, so don't quote me on exact timelines here, but we are still running in that 6 to 8 month period of time, as far as I am aware. We are doing some extra things right now to try and bring those numbers down and get that timeline shorter, but it's going to take a while. So just be aware you have some time to work and to continue to focus on those quality interactions in your intentional teaching practices.
Absolutely. Thanks, Amber. Great question. And just know that your program maintains prior quality levels while you're waiting for that observation. If you already had them, if you didn't, and you're working to try and get to that demonstrating quality, you do stay at that enhancing quality validated while you're waiting. So you don't lose any quality levels or anything as you're working on that quality improvement while you're waiting for those observations. All right. And if it's your second go around, it can definitely be anxious. You're like, I'm ready to have this done. So we understand. Absolutely, Sarah. We appreciate your patience too. And your desire to want to make those improvements and go through the process. So kudos to you, given all the things you have going on as a business owner. I put a few more resources in the chat. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. And if folks have other questions, continue to throw them in the chat, but we want to be respectful of time. So if you need more information, I put the link to our website in the chat. We have a Facebook page with lots of resources and information we share. The amazing assessment team, Stacy, Amber, and others do tips on Tuesdays about observations, and all sorts of great resources are shared. And then we also have a YouTube channel where webinars like this one and previous ones are all listed once the recording is done, along with other supportive videos and tools. So feel free to check that out. All right, our next quality connection. So another webinar like this is going to be held on Wednesday, August 12th from 1 to 2 p.m. So it's going to be an afternoon session. So if you want to register now, get it on your calendar, hold that time. I just put the link in the chat. So feel free to register for that. More information will be coming, and it will be shared in our Loop newsletter on our Facebook page and things too. So if you're not sure if you want to register yet, know that that will be coming in the future as well, along with more details about the topic. All right. The final thing I'm going to do is launch one more quick poll. So if you can all stay with me for a couple more minutes. This poll is about these quality connection meetings, or webinars. So we currently do them on a bi-monthly basis. So they're every other month. And then sometimes they're in the afternoon and sometimes they're in the evening like this. But we've noticed that certain times of day, there tends to be smaller participation. So we're just trying to get a sense from folks of what time of day really is best, because we're encouraging programs to constantly take child feedback and make improvements in their program. And at Grace Arts Quality, we want to do the same. So we need to hear from you about what makes the most sense for you. So I just have a quick poll, 3 questions. If you could go ahead and answer that about how frequently does this bi-monthly, every other month timeframe work? Would you prefer to have something like this every month? Maybe less, only do it 4 times a year, do it quarterly. What time of day would you like it? Does it afternoon or evening better, or a combination like we're currently doing where sometimes it's afternoon, sometimes evening? And then, is this helpful? Do you like this information? Would you recommend it to somebody else? Yes or no? Or if you're unsure, you can definitely check that maybe. So I appreciate folks filling that out. It's like we got almost everybody, so I'll give it just one more second for anybody who's still getting to those final questions. And we will share those results. So it looks like the majority of folks like the bi-monthly. Monthly would be helpful for some, so that's helpful feedback. We'll take that into consideration. Evenings, obviously, because everybody's here in the evening, so that time slot works better than afternoons, and some folks set a combination, which we absolutely understand. And great news, you would all recommend it, which is helpful for us. Sometimes we wonder if this information is helpful for folks. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. We did at the last Quality Connection, which was in the afternoon, ask those same questions. So we'll take their feedback along with yours to determine kind of the structure going forward. And then that will be communicated out to folks as well. So that's all we have for you today. We know we're out of time, so if you need to jump off, absolutely. If you still have a couple questions, happy to stay on to address anything that anybody else is curious about. But appreciate you all so much taking the time this evening. It was nice seeing you, and we appreciate all your feedback, questions, comments that you shared in the chat. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you in a couple months.